I don't know what kid wouldn't eat broccoli that's smothered in cheese sauce. Hey you guys, welcome back to See Mindy Mom. If you are new here, I am so glad that you found me. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I am sharing with you 3 inexpensive family meals using ingredients from Aldi, so stay tuned. All right, you guys, a few months back, I filmed a video where I shopped at Aldi. I spent about 10 bucks and I was able to make 3 delicious meals for my family. This video has been pretty popular. It's one of the most popular videos on my channel, so I decided that I would attempt to do that again. So I'm about to head out the door to Aldi. I'm gonna see what I can find, and I am going to try to create 3 family meals, 3 meals that feed multiple people as inexpensively as I possibly can. Now, if you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to check out the playlist in the description box. I have done all kinds of budget meal content using different parameters, shopping at different stores, using convenience items, cooking from scratch. So if you are somebody who enjoys that kind of content and you are just stumbling upon my channel, be sure to check out that playlist and also hit that like and subscribe button so you can see more of this kind of content. Also, along those lines, this is the kind of video where I'm cooking for a family, I'm cooking in my family kitchen, so I am going to utilize just a few staples typically, some very basic seasonings like salt and pepper, maybe a few standard spices from my spice cabinet, a little bit of oil. I am kind of operating under the assumption that if you are here for family meals, that you might already have some of those things on hand. And if you intend to cook more from scratch, if you intend to start to make budget meals for your family, if you do not have some spices, just some standard kitchen staples, you might want to think about maybe adding 1 or 2 of those items to your grocery list each time you visit the store, because it makes it so much easier to cook this way in the long run. If, however, you are starting with nothing, maybe you have just moved into a new home or a new apartment. I just filmed a video a few weeks ago where I stored some emergency meals for my family that use non-perishable items and don't really require anything extra for your kitchen. So if you're looking for that kind of thing, you can check out that video in the description box below as well. But let's head out to Aldi. Let's see what we can find. I will show you my haul. I will tell you what I paid for it, and then I'll show you what I made with it. Checking out the meat options first. I haven't decided if this is gonna be a meatless meal plan or not. I'm just looking to see what my options are here on a really tight budget. So let's take a look. So the family pack of chicken thighs is a really great price, but since I'm only needing to make 3 meals, I don't really want to blow half of my budget on the meat. And the smaller packages aren't bad either, but they are out of those temporarily. The beef is not horribly priced, but you have to buy a lot of it to get a decent price. So again, I just don't want to use a lot of meat. And the pork, same situation. I'm just not seeing a lot to work with just for a handful of meals. I did see they had this package of sausage links marked down $1, which would make them only $1.39. But since they're maple flavored, I wasn't sure I could make that work in the meal plan, regardless of what I end up doing. I don't know. I'll have to think about that. Believe it or not, this is what I ended up with from Aldi, and I'm going to use this to make 3 different meals for my family. After perusing the meat selections, I decided that I would go with a pound of pork sausage for a couple of the meals. I like to use sausage whenever I'm trying to stretch meat because, first of all, it's pretty inexpensive, but secondly, a little bit goes a long way because it's seasoned pretty heavily, so I'll be using that. I also decided to get half and half instead of milk. Some of the recipes I have in mind would call for milk, actually all 3 of them, I think. Milk was $2.08 for a half gallon, but this half and half was $1.55. So I figured I could just use a little less of this than I would use milk and just make up the difference with water. One of the recipes that inspired one of the dishes I'm going to make calls for 16 ounces or 15 ounces of tomato sauce, but all they have are the little 8-ounce cans at my Aldi, so I just decided just to get a can of tomato paste and just reconstitute it. 1 can of jumbo buttermilk biscuits. These are a pretty good value. It's still 95 cents at my Aldi for a can of biscuits. 1 pound of pasta. I chose the rotini, 16 ounces. These are only 79 cents at my Aldi. The cheese was an interesting one. I normally do not like to buy my cheese already shredded. I like to shred it myself, and I normally don't buy mild cheddar. I buy sharp cheddar. But these 1 pound bags were only $2.59. So for 16 ounces, I paid $2.59, and just for comparison, it was $1.69 for 8 ounces, which is not a bad price for cheese at all, but $2.59 for a pound. I can make do with the mild cheddar with the stuff that's already shredded, and I'll just kind of season my food a little bit differently to make up the difference. And then I like to include a fruit or a vegetable with each of my meals, and one of my meals I really needed something to go along with it. I didn't find anything in the vegetables that I was super excited about as far as sales went, but I did see that mandarin oranges were $2.19 for a 3 pound bag. That is a pretty good deal. So even though it's not a vegetable, there's quite a few of these in here. So I'm gonna use these alongside my meal that was short a vegetable. We'll have a fruit instead, and we'll still have a few left over maybe to have one with another meal. So that was my little haul. So I have my receipt from Aldi here, and I have figured out that I spent $12.28 on the ingredients that I showed you guys that I'm going to use to make 3 different dinners. Now, just to give you a little behind the scenes look at how this works for me, I went into Aldi today without a plan. I worked a little while on putting together a meal plan where I could use multiple ingredients across several dishes. That's how these kind of videos usually come together for me. And initially, in addition to the things that I showed you in the haul, I also picked up this, a pound of ground turkey, which I find in the freezer section there at Aldi, and it's only $1.89. And I had intended to use this in some of the dishes as well so that I could have a little bit more meat. But as I got to figuring out exactly what I was gonna make and figuring out the nutritional value of those meals per serving, because I tried to make the servings be anywhere from 500 to 700 calories per serving, I was closer to $15 total with that ground turkey. I decided that I don't really need it, so I'm not gonna use it. And hindsight is 2020. If I had known that, I probably would have gone ahead and picked up a package of hamburger buns or some other really inexpensive bread item at Aldi. Hamburger buns are only 85 cents at my Aldi, and I can use those to make toast that would go along with some of these meals if I wanted to just up the calorie content a little bit more. But I really didn't want to make a special trip back to Aldi specifically for that item because I almost always have bread lying around the house that needs to be used, or I have items in the freezer waiting for me to use, like this loaf of discount French bread that I picked up at Walmart and stuck in the freezer a few weeks back. So if you wanted to spend, an extra buck or so, you could pick up some bread and have toast alongside some of these meals. But I am usually flying by the seat of my pants, and sometimes it just doesn't work out perfectly for me. But that just gives you an idea of how my brain is working as I'm trying to figure out these challenges.
On my way to a weekend rumble, I forgot to check where the party was at. Roaming around without any trouble, I began to ask everybody I met, singing, just a shot away from the corner where I used to play with my friends as a kid. I saw a man with a pulled-up collar playing banjo with an invisible stick, singing, sing now, I turn around and wave to a kid who is running on his bike. Another day to spend doing nothing, just wait until the night. And if to find salvation is the only thing to do, you don't have to look no further, 'cause I'll take care of it for you. I'll take care of it for you. Why do I have to be so humble when the rest of the world doesn't care about a thing?
This is me up and at 'em before Before getting my hair fixed and my makeup done, I am up this morning fixing breakfast. It is the second day of school. If I was a deluxe mom, I would have fixed breakfast on the first day of school, but I'm just a standard issue mom. So here we are on the second day of school. And I decided I would turn one of these meals into breakfast for the kids because it is, well, and us, because it is biscuits and gravy. So I'd intended to make this for dinner. I decided I'd just go ahead and get up, make it this morning because it's super easy. I don't make this very often. It's been a long time since I've made sausage gravy. Pretty sure I've made it, but it's so easy. I don't know why I don't do this more often. Maybe because it's not the healthiest of meals, but it'll do in a pinch, right? Also, one of my kids, when we were at like a breakfast place sometime in the past year, asked us, what are biscuits and gravy? And I was like, man, have we failed our kids living here in the South and they don't know what biscuits and gravy are? Although I guess we're not really in the South. Oklahoma's kind of one of those weird interlopers where we're not really in the South. We're not really in the Midwest. I guess you could say we're kind of in the Southwest. Whatever Texas is, that's what we are. So basically I just browned up the sausage. I removed half of the sausage cooked because I'm going to use that in a dinner that I'm making for tonight. And I left the rest of the sausage and all of the fat that it rendered in the pan, and you saw me make gravy there with 2 tablespoons of flour, and then I used 1/4 cup of water, 3/4 of a cup of half and half as my milk product. I did go back later and add just a smidge more water to thin out my gravy just a little bit, but it turned out really, really good. I only bought 8 biscuits because I have a couple of younger kids who will probably only eat 1, but if I were feeding this to my family of 5 equal portions, there would be enough for everybody to have 1.5 biscuits and some sausage gravy and a few clementines. And believe it or not, that comes out to around 500 calories for a meal. So for a breakfast, that's fantastic. Even for a dinner, like, we're not going to starve on that, right? So that is what we're having for breakfast. And then we're heading out the door to school. So yay. Cheers.
I take care of it for you.
The next recipe I'm going to share with you is a sausage and vegetable cheesy pasta. And this recipe was actually inspired by a recipe I saw on my friend Carrie's website. Carrie and her sister Christina run a service called LazyDayCookingClub.com, and each month they drop 20 new recipes into their member dashboards. And this is a little different from other meal planning services I've seen because all of their recipes are designed specifically for the crock pot and for freezer meal prep. So all of the recipes come with instructions for how to prep your meals for the freezer and also what to do on cooking day. They also have a private Facebook group for their members where they go live all the time and give extra tips and tricks. So if this is something that you might be interested in, I will leave a link in the description box below. And I believe that if you use the code Mindy50, you will get 50% off your first month. These are the ingredients that I'm using for this recipe. I have the other half of my cooked sausage. Remember, I saved half of it from when I made sausage biscuits earlier that day. I have my bag of frozen mixed veggies, my can of tomato paste. I'm going to use some half and half of my box of pasta, which is about 8 ounces, and I'm going to use 1 cup from that 1 pound bag of mild cheddar cheese. These are the spices that I'm using: chili powder, parsley, paprika, and garlic salt. I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of each of these, as well as some salt and pepper to taste. If you do not have these and you wanted to just take the easy route, you could just pick up a packet of taco seasoning or chili seasoning at Aldi. Those are pretty inexpensive at my Aldi, and a lot of these seasonings can be found in these packets. The other thing that I'm going to use that I did not buy is half of an onion chopped up. I almost always have onions and garlic in my veggie crisper in the refrigerator, and I can't buy a single onion at Aldi. I have to purchase an entire bag of them. But if you don't have onions, you can either leave that out, or you could use about a teaspoon of onion powder or a tablespoon of minced dry onion if you have those hanging out in your spice cabinet, or like I said, you can just leave it out. I warmed my sausage on the stove, and then I went ahead and added my onion to it to kind of let it brown. I added my seasonings, a teaspoon each of the garlic, salt, paprika, parsley, and chili powder, and then I just added a little bit of salt and pepper and my frozen vegetables. I kind of let those heat together just a little bit. And then I added my can of tomato paste, and I started with 2.5 cups of water. I stirred that together and let it heat just a little bit, and then I went ahead and added my pasta to cook there. And this is where I added just a smidge more water. I wanted to make sure that the pasta was completely covered once I added my half and half, and I used 1 cup of half and half. I popped the lid on and I let that simmer on low for about 10 minutes, and then I turned the stove off completely, but I left the lid on the pot for about 10 more minutes, and then I added in my cheese, which is about 1 cup from my 2-pound bag. I just stirred that all together, and that was it. I mean, this is basically kind of like a homemade hamburger helper style dish, and it turned out really, really great. So I did chop up half of my loaf of bread that you guys saw. Remember, I said there are lots of inexpensive bread options at Aldi. That is definitely what I would have picked up had I known what I was going to do exactly before I got home. But this is what it looks like. It turned out great. Everybody enjoyed it. Of course, you can make some adjustments to your tastes and preferences, or to other things that you have hanging around in your kitchen. And of course, we have plenty of little mandarin oranges, so we got to have a couple of those with this as well. But this turned out really good, and thank you to Carrie and her sister Christina for the inspiration for this. I made some adjustments and substitutions, but it turned out really good. Tonight, I am making some broccoli mac and cheese. I am using the rest of my pasta here, which is about 8 ounces of pasta. I'm using the rest of my cheese, which should be about 3 cups. I used 1.5 cups of half and half, and I added about half a cup of water there. And I also have my broccoli here. And from my pantry, I pulled out a 1/4 cup of flour, some salt and pepper, some paprika, which is optional, you could leave this out. And I also scoured the pantry for some little Parmesan packets, and you'll see how I'm gonna use that in a bit. But I am actually going to attempt to make it without butter since I'm using half and half. So I'm gonna put just a little of this in this jar with my flour and shake it up, which is sort of how I would make gravy. I would make like something that I would use to thicken like a gravy or a sauce. So we're gonna try that and see if that will help, be able to make this without butter. I am also attempting to make breadcrumbs with the rest of the bread, like the heels and just the couple pieces I had left. I'm gonna put this into the oven at 350 for a few minutes and kind of stir it around, and then put it back in for a few more minutes and see if I can't kind of dry, this bread out, kind of toast it up so I can crumble it up and make some breadcrumbs. So I thought this might happen. I think the sauce is just a tad too thick, so I saved a little bit of the starchy pasta water, the water that I cooked the pasta in, so that I could thin out the sauce a little. I'm also realizing this is a lot of sauce. I probably could have doubled up on the pasta for this, maybe just bought a big package of pasta and made this, feed even more people, because this is gonna be a pretty saucy macaroni and cheese, I believe. Is my breadcrumb mixture. I emptied all of my little Parmesan packets in here, and then I added my breadcrumbs, and like I said, I just toasted those little bread pieces in the oven until they were crispy. And normally people would get their food processor out. I hate getting that thing out. So I just used a rolling pin to kind of smash them up, and then I poured them through this little thing into the bowl just to get the fine breadcrumbs and get, kind of the big stuff out. But these are some little breadcrumbs that will go on top of my macaroni and cheese. Okay, so here is the final product. Here is my broccoli mac and cheese with the breadcrumbs there on top. It looks and smells delicious. And of course, I still have some little mandarins here on the side as well. So hindsight is 2020. I probably could have reconfigured the ingredient amounts for this recipe because it made a lot more sauce than I thought it was going to. So it's a good thing that I went ahead and put the broccoli into the mac and cheese, because that helped kind of spread out the cheese sauce. But I don't think I've ever heard anybody complain in this house that something is too cheesy, but probably could have used 12 ounces, maybe even a full pound of mac and cheese, depending on how cheesy you like it. But this is gonna be really delicious, and I'm gonna try it right now, actually. Yeah, that worked out great. That worked out fantastic. Man, that was good. I don't know what kid wouldn't eat broccoli that's smothered in cheese sauce.